Welcome to Breaking the Ice. We're Patel, Greene and Associates, and we're here to tell stories about our three favorite things: business, culture, and engineering. Let's get to it. All right, well, welcome to the inaugural PGA podcast, which we're calling Breaking the Ice. That's a little bit of play on the words for our ICE core values, which stand for integrity, commitment, and excellence. And we want to get a podcast going so that you all could get to know us a little bit better. We could talk about what's going on at PGA and some of the things that we do. Really, we just wanted to create more time where we could hang out with each other. So that's really what we're doing on this first one. Thought we'd make it easy on ourselves. And it's just me and Hiren. So we're going to talk a little bit today about how PGA got started, some of those early days. Really just kind of walk down memory lane, tell some stories on each other, and you guys get to just listen in. So I think we'll just kind of get rolling. And so
let's do it.
Talk a little bit about how we got started. Not even PGA, but how we, met each other and kind of got going and got this idea to start PGA. So I don't know if you want to get that story started.
Yeah, I mean, we were both at PBS&J, great place to work, in the Tampa office. That's where I was, and met Gordon, I think in 2004 is when you came over to learn drainage from the Bartow office. And I was already in drainage, started in roadway. So I got to start working with Gordon on a few projects like Corkscrew. Got to really see how he worked and got to really learn a lot from working with him. Because we were the ones kind of just working on the projects before we go to the gurus of drainage that we called them, before we went to, hey, how do you do this? We actually try to do it ourselves, so got to know Gordon a lot from 2004 on before we started the firm.
Yeah, I think I'll take one quick step back. I guess Hiren and I are so familiar with each other. Some of you listening to this may not actually know who we are. So obviously, this is Patel, Greene and Associates, and for those of you who may not know, we started PGA. So Gordon Greene, Hiren Patel, co-founders, and so now you know. So Hiren's got us back in 2004. Maybe a good opportunity, especially for you young engineers out there. That's what we were at the time. We were a few years out of school. I guess I was really fresh out of school in 2004. And like Hiren said, the only reason that I was over in Tampa is because I wanted to learn drainage. I was in Bartow, Florida in the PBS&J office, and they didn't have a real big design practice in that office there. They, at least for roadway or transportation, they were mainly focused on serving District 1 through the GEC contract. And so I did do some work through there, but I wanted to expand. And my only option was to go to Tampa, and I didn't move, so I made that commute. So that's a little bit of a sacrifice. That's some of the things that you do coming up to kind of get ahead and make yourself more valuable and to learn more and to hopefully be successful. It was just extra fortunate that when we got over there, of course we had no idea at the time. We just enjoyed working with each other. I think. Appreciated how hard we worked on stuff. We were of similar mind, just like getting the job done and having a good time and joking around. And yeah, we got pretty close pretty quick in the trenches like that, working hard on stuff. And so yeah, we did that for a while. I was over there for like 3 years working on Crosstown Connector. That kept me very, very busy.
Very busy.
And I know, I think I tell people, I don't know, I'm not really bragging at all. It was kind of rough actually, but I went a long time without seeing my house in the daylight, working on some of those projects over there, because it was, a ways to get over, and that job was so huge. But that's how some of those bonds are kind of solidified. Not just me and you, but with some of the people we're still a lot with.
You even worked with Kashmira on a project.
I knew her before I knew you, I think. At least closer, working on 275. Still the better half.
I believe that.
So anyway, I don't really want to zoom ahead a little bit, or you tell a little bit more of your story. But that was it, really. We were just over there working.
Yeah, I think it was more the, working with each other and bouncing ideas or solutions, and really got to know Gordon a lot from those days and how he operated. And we really just complement each other really well on projects, or just got along even on just normal stuff, like football or TV. But things like that come up, and we just got along as a friendship, and also as really good coworker. That really helped strengthen our bond from like '04 to when we started the firm in 11.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Over that time, we figured out, it wasn't just work ethic. It was, kind of worldview, and we, family life was pretty similar, and there's just a lot of common interests and a lot of commonality. But at PBS, if we mentioned PBS&J, I mean, that was a really great place to work. Certainly back then they were, they were the top dog for sure.
mhm.
And some things happened at PBS&J, and it changed a little bit, enough to where, we thought about, what other options could be, and I had gone through and gotten an MBA, never with the intention of starting my own company. I really just wanted to be a better manager and better leader at PBS&J. But it was good knowledge to have. Did open my eyes to some things, but it was really kind of after that little bit of change where that idea kind of formed. I think you found. Well, I wish we had like the original emails. Of course, a lot of the conversations were just you and I talking, but
Yeah.
that idea was born probably 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
And we just kind of kept that conversation going for at least a year. I think feel like over a year. Kind of off and on. Workload would pick up, and we wouldn't maybe work on it for a while, but wouldn't ever go too long before we'd get back to it and make sure we were making some progress. But man, there were just so many good things that we took away from PBS&J, and of course at this point we've got a lot of folks at PGA that were a part of PBS&J from those old days, and I feel like a lot of the really good parts of what made PBS&J great, culture-wise, we have been able to incorporate, and of course we've added plenty of our own touches to things, and we're our own thing, obviously, but it was a major influence. But that said, it had changed a little bit for us to where we wanted to give it a shot and see, maybe we could do it on our own, and then we finally did. Really, the acquisition, I think probably most people, if engineers are listening to this, which I guess is our primary audience, and they've been around a little while, you know about PBS&J getting acquired by Atkins. Well, I guess about as long as we've been around, so 13, 14 years ago. And so that felt like a good point for us to kind of make our move, since we were already kind of planning to do that. And so we did. And man, we were pretty nervous about that. We were young. I was 29.
You're still young.
You were 34. My kids were, I think, 2 and 4, and yours would have been 1, 3, 5.
Yep, 1, 3, 5.
So some people thought we were crazy, probably, but our family supported us.
Yes.
Although they might have been more nervous than we were. I think at that point we felt pretty good about it, even though we were nervous. But others might not have been so confident. But we were ready to do it. I can remember, when we did decide to finally tell our folks, our of course, again, a lot of these people are here now. David Long. So he's an owner at PGA now. He's been with us for a while. Back then, he ran the Bartow office at PBS&J, and he'd been a mentor to me. I mean, still is, but certainly back then, pretty much since I joined the industry in like 2000. So over 10 years at that point, and pretty close. And those were the toughest to talk to. But of course, if y'all know Dave, and it didn't really surprise me, he was very supportive. Obviously sad to see us go, but very supportive. And I know when we went over to Tampa, because that's where Hiren was, and I still had kind of some bosses over there. Everybody was pretty supportive, I would say. But a couple stood out, and one was another guy that is with us now at PBS&J at a PGA, and that's Joe Hiderman. I can remember. Yeah. I think he was technically my boss at the time over in Tampa, because I was kind of managing people over there at the time, and he was over the moon. He was like visibly excited for us, and that always stuck with me. So I'm glad we got Joe with us now. But so that was an interesting time for us, and that was kind of tough because we'd both been there for a decade or more. I think me almost 10 years. I think you had more than 10 years. I think.
I started in 2000. Yeah, so 2011.
Yeah,
11
yeah.
years, but.
So pretty tough. Only place I ever worked before we started PGA. I'm going to call it PBS&J a few more times. We won't move on. And then as we got started, they were pretty supportive as well. I think I could name a few projects, but I know you were mentioning something earlier about really easing us in. I mean, we're I think we'll cover some of that now. Is I'd like to think we would have made it regardless, but PBS&J and the leaders in place at the time were super helpful. I mean, it certainly wouldn't have been as quick and maybe as rapid out of the gate without their help.
Very supportive. I know they had a GEC in District 7, and when word was out there that we had started PGA, then they quickly added us to the GEC, knowing the district, needed my support at the time on an in-house project, and they were very supportive in adding us to the contract and putting me out there. That really helped us from day one to go out there and support, the drainage group out at District 7 on a project, and that got us billable pretty quick, and never forget that. So really appreciate all the fortune that we've had from the beginning.
Yeah.
I think that really helped us, and you were able to take some projects with you.
Yeah.
Like Bartow Northern, things like that.
Yeah.
So that helped, to have work right away while we were actively looking for new work.
Yeah, I mean, it really is a people business. We had built those relationships, and they were kind of real. They were genuine relationships with these people, and I guess they respected that we, had a lot to do. I mean, some of it was out of necessity, but some of it really wasn't. The first, I think I mentioned a minute ago, we didn't really have a design group in Bartow when I left to go to Tampa in 2004. But I had come back in 2007 with Jay and Jason, and we were there to build and Dave kind of being that principal and kind of setting it up to build a design group there in Bartow to mainly pursue work in District 1 and Polk County and some areas around here. But District 1 was the big one because they'd always pursued work out of Tampa, and of course they continued to do that. But we built that team, I put that team together, and we chased that 542 job. And that was our first big win. That was really, that was our second big one for me anyway, being, the drainage guy. And, man, I had learned a lot. And at that point figured out I was pretty decent at it. And we won that job. That was a big job. And so for us, that was just huge that we had gone in, us young guys, and had won that job. And then we left. But nothing we can do about that. That was the timing of it. But they let me keep the pond sighting report, so that was pretty cool to actually get to work on that job that I'd worked so hard to win. And they didn't have to do that, man. They could have just said, "See you later," but they didn't. So that was really cool. And the other was the BDI program. So we got to get into that.
Yeah.
What we always tell is we look like geniuses looking back, because we started this small business at a time when the department was starting this business development initiative program, which is a set aside. They still going strong. You set aside for small businesses, but at the time it was brand new. We didn't know anything about it. We were not geniuses. We just wanted to have our own company. But we quickly learned about it. And that very first one, I remember we started, first day was July 4th,
Yes.
2011. So first day was a holiday,
America.
which we worked. And we were going on the ad page, and we had been doing a little bit of that, trying to prep and to get started and trying to identify projects we could pursue. And there was this US-17 resurfacing job in Arcadia that we weren't really tracking because it had advertised, months, so it wasn't really on our radar. Pulled up the web page, back then, and there it was.
It's back.
What is this project? It's already advertised, and you kind of could read the notes, and everybody was screwing it up back then because it was back
So
then.
new. Yeah.
Now they allow a portion to be bigger firms. Back then it had to be all small business, no exception. And since it was new, teams were still screwing it up. So you'd have a small business prime, and then they'd throw some big firm on there, right? And so they kept having to re-advertise. I think it was the third time they re-advertised, and a week of the ad had already passed. So we're mid ad, and we're like, well, we ain't got nothing else to do. So
let's write a letter.
Let's write a letter. Joe Locke was a PM, who's of course with us now. He was still at the department back then. And I think I made some calls and spoke in like generalities, just so we could kind of get some sort of lay of the land, figure out what the heck was going on, and also like make sure they knew we had our own company now and wanted to put a letter in. So we put the letter together in a week. We got shortlisted, and we won. So very first letter, very first shortlist, very first selection. It was kind of hard to believe, actually. Not all that happened in the first few months.
Don't forget, we got shortlisted on the second BDI in D1 also. It was 41.
That's when we learned real quick. You don't win back to back.
You don't win.
They don't let you do that. Yeah. But we did get shortlisted. That's right.
Yeah. I remember learning about that in the PBS&J office, that we had won that one, because we were down there talking to them, because we didn't have an office then.
Nope.
It was just us working out of our homes and trying to win work and then see where it took us. And that was the first sign, like, okay, we may have something here. So
yeah, if I remember right, I think Dunn was in Bartow at the time. I think they were sitting in front of his office, and
it was Mr. Brian Blair that gave us the news.
That's right, it was Blair, and I think I wanted to shove him like Elaine does on Seinfeld, because I thought he was messing with us, but he wasn't. No. He had been selected. Yeah, that was a pretty exciting time. We got to figure out real quick if we were capable of managing projects. I'd never managed a project in my life.
No, and a 3R job too.
Yeah.
So I had to learn 3R.
Yep. So that was that allowed us to get out of the gate really, really quick, and learn that we could manage projects, and kind of learn the ropes, what it means to deal with the client directly like that, and to manage a team and schedule and budget and all those things. And so that was a really good learning experience for us, and also solidified like this BDI thing could be the deal. Let's go. Yeah. So where we go next?
Where do we go next after D1? Logically, D2. So we saw the success of the BDI program in D1, so we started looking everywhere else in this state to try to keep winning work, try to win some projects, hopefully start an office one day. That was our ultimate goal at that point. So we looked at D2. They had some projects coming out in the BDI program, so we decided to pursue those. Never met District 2 before, or they've interacted with us. So it was a great opportunity for them to learn a little bit about us. We went there and shared our story while we started the firm and pursued it. Sherwood 121 project in Gainesville with District 2. Got shortlisted. Won that interview and were able to win that one.
Yeah, we hadn't submitted a letter up there before that, had we? That was our first shortlist there, too.
That was our first shortlist.
Yeah.
Yeah. First letter, first shortlist, first win. So that was very exciting. And again, this was a district we had never done work for, so we were learning a lot about a new district, seeing what their goals were and all that, and learning the whole interview process of Q&As, because that was also new to the district, which was very nerve-wracking for us newbies. But we quickly, like we do anything when we first started, just worked our tail off and listened to old tapes, studied questions, and just, studied the project really well. And then had a really good teaming partner. We still have him on most of our projects today, Irby Garrett with Garrett Engineering Group.
He's got to make it now, thank goodness.
Yeah, really good guy. Really helped us out with that one. And, that was a really good win. And then, just keep going down the road from that one.
Yeah. Now, I remember one thing from that D2 interview. So I had done a little bit of marketing before we left. Big presentations, stuff like that. I'd like 2 or 3. Not that many, but enough. And the prep on those is pretty intense. I don't think you had done any. So this is a lot of this is pretty new to you. So obviously we did the first US 17 together, but I was a PM.
Yep.
And then, like you said, we got shortlisted on, they had kind of 2 at the same time, and you got shortlisted, and you were the PM on that one. And it was a good interview. I remember that. But anyway, I think we finished second. So we go to D2, and, back then everything was like shoestring budget, and probably for longer than we needed to, we would share hotel rooms. Until the snoring got so bad, and I was like, I don't care what it costs. Hiren gets his own room. Nope. Back then we shared the room, and I can still remember that night before. We of course been practicing and prepping. We were excited, had all of our notes, and back then you didn't get to take notes in. I think even in D2 we didn't get to take notes in, right?
Yeah.
I know we didn't, because the first time we did that was when we went up to D3 later on,
Mm-hmm.
and we were trying to memorize everything, and the people that were used to marketing up there were like, "What are you doing? Just take the notes in with you." Anyway, District 1 certainly didn't let you take them in. I don't think 7 did either, and I don't think 2 did either. So it's a lot of, you have to study more, and you really have to memorize your notes.
You really gotta know your stuff.
On the questions that have been asked before, whatever. The prep's basically the same as it is now for those interviews, except you just have to memorize stuff.
Well, you didn't get the 5-minute huddle either.
That's true.
You just got
That's
the
a good point.
questions, and they read them to you. You're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
You really got to think on your feet back then.
You did. So we're trying to cram the night before because of all that, and each sitting in our own queen beds in the whatever Holiday Inn up in Lake
beds.
City.
Yeah,
we did get 2 beds, and I'm drilling you, I'm sure, right? Because you're the PM, you're going to get most of the questions, and you were struggling. I remember you were struggling.
Mm-hmm.
You're having a hard time thinking, remembering or thinking or delivering or whatever. And I was trying to be encouraging, of course, because it didn't. It mattered, but it didn't. Like, if we lost, we would have just gone after the next one. It would have been fine. So it wasn't like super high stakes, but obviously we like to win. We don't do stuff to lose.
Nope.
But I was just like, okay, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. But I was a little worried. And, but hey, we go in the next day. It was just the 3 of us, because they only allowed 3. That was the other thing about it back then. So it was just me, you, and Irby. And we get the questions, and they must have been mostly what we prepared for. I don't remember having a freak out moment. I think they were pretty much what we were prepared for. But I was still anxious to see how it was going to go, because you were kind of struggling the night before. And I remember sitting there, and those questions came in, and you were just you were just on the spot, and you were, it was amazing. It was amazing. It was better than any practice you had done. And I just remember sitting there going, this guy's a gamer. He's showing up at game time, and I was like, we're going to win this. Nobody's going to do this well. I don't even remember what I said in that interview. I don't think I said very much. That was all you and Irby.
You probably had the QC question.
Yeah, something. But anyway, that always stuck in my brain as all right, well, Hiren may get nervous from time to time, but when it really comes down to it, he shows up. I think it happened. I think it happened in I-75 one a little bit too.
Oh my gosh, that one.
The one in D7. But that time I wasn't worried, because I'm like, it's fine. He'll be fine. I remember D2. He'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. And same exact thing happened, although I wasn't surprised this time, because when we got in the room, it was like, there Hiren goes.
Yeah.
We won that job too.
Yeah, you're right. at PBS&J, didn't really do many Q&As or presentations. I was the behind the scenes guy doing the calcs or whatever, but never in the room. But I think I was going to get there at some point.
Well, you got there quick, man.
I got there.
You got there quick.
Yeah. And I was just messing with you in the hotel room. I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
But like most engineers, you don't really learn that in school. Like you need to go win work. You need to go and be able to, present your ideas in a nice manner to your client that's going to select you out of 2 other really good firms that are also trying to win this project.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's one thing that we've always done from the very beginning is like, no one's going to outwork us. We're going to go and find the answers and do everything we can to win the project. Because at that point, that was our livelihood. We had to win just to keep going. So made sure we did that.
Well, and we learned through that we really like to chase work and we really like to win work.
Well, as a prime too.
More as a prime. Sometimes it can be frustrating as a sub, and we learned that even early on. Like some primes, of course, are amazing, and it was fun to work with them. And then some, man, you're just like, this rate can be frustrating. So that kind of fed into us wanting to chase more prime work as well, because we could just control the whole thing. But we're competitive. You and I are competitive. We've attracted a lot of very competitive people.
Yep.
And we just like to chase work and to win work. So let's kind of segue that back into kind of why we started PGA, because that's a little bit of it. So maybe you tell a little bit about what was your big why, because I think we kind of shared that, but it was a big thing for you when we were starting out.
I think it was more just seeing how we can start our own firm and leave our own legacy, and show what qualities we can bring to an engineering firm and to grow the firm the right way, with hard work, just strong culture, and just, attracting really good people to work with us. That was one of my big things to start the firm.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot about, we definitely shared that. Just valuing, appreciating. That was always like up front. Back then we had no idea what we would do, how big we might get or whatever. We just knew that whoever we did bring in, that we'd want to, do whatever we could to make them feel appreciated. And that sort of thing has, what that has become is, we're pretty generous in a lot of ways, but even like, these big, we got our holiday party. I know you're not supposed to date these things, but it's this Friday, or this Saturday, I guess, this weekend. By the time you hear this, we'll have already partied.
Yeah.
But it's it's a bash, man. Like we don't mess around. I'm not sure of too many consulting firms that put on a party like that, but the whole point is that people feel appreciated, especially at the end of the year. Like it's, every year is a super busy year. And so, that those early motives, are kind of still there today. And I know, I think this for you as well, at least for me, and I believe for you, I can remember, especially that 542 proposal that I mentioned earlier. That was a lot of work. And I remember at the time I had built a better work-life balance for me, which meant because my kids were small, I'm going to leave work around 5:30 so I can go see them. And then if there's more work to do, I'll either work there, but most of the time I would just come back to the office because they were little, so they were in bed by 8, So unfortunately that meant, left Krista there by herself too many nights, but I'd come back to the office and I'd walk up oftentimes by myself to go back into the office to work till, midnight or whatever. And one night as I'm walking up, the parking lot to go in the building, I'm like, I don't really want to be doing this. But I can't not do this. Like there's a proposal coming. I have to come here and be prepared so that we can win. And it just sort of, I guess, dawned on me like, what if I just harness this? Because I was a workaholic. That's what you call that. That's what that is. If I can harness that for myself, that might be better. So that was some of the genesis. There's a lot of altruism to what our motives were, wanting to treat people really well and appreciate them. is 100% a major driving factor, but it was also like, if I'm going to be a workaholic, I'm going to be a workaholic for me. You know what I mean? Plus, we thought maybe we've got the chops to do it. And if we don't, that's what we always do. Like people would say, like, well, was it scary or whatever? And yes, it was scary, but the way I guess we rationalized it so that we would, do it.
Actually do it, yeah.
Was if we suck at it, we think we're pretty good engineers. We're good enough that I'm pretty sure we could close the doors and go get a job somewhere. Yeah, we're not going to be homeless.
That's what we talked about.
We'll be all right.
We just pay off a bunch of debt, but we'd still find a good job somewhere.
We won't be ruined. Right. We won't be ruined.
And it'd be a learning experience if it didn't work out.
Right. Right. Exactly.
I mean, to me, it was, and that was one of the reasons why I went into business with you, is just knowing you had a strong work ethic, and you knew that about me. I knew it was going to work. That was just going to happen.
Yeah.
It just would have taken us longer sometimes if we didn't win the right job or whatever, or maybe not open the office right away. But I think, clients sincerely appreciate folks that work hard for them. So, and it paid off.
That's what it's all about, man. And I think you'll probably remember there were some guys that had started their, and I think, Diane too, started her own company. So there were some folks that had started their own company, whatever, a little bit later in their careers. And I think the consensus among them all was, man, should have done this sooner. So we said,
that's
okay.
Right.
We'll take that lesson, and we'll try it now. And if we suck at it, we'll just go back to work for somebody.
Yeah, because I think that's the part people don't realize. Like the engineering part, that was the easy part. It was trying to run a business or learn QuickBooks or talk to an accountant about whatever, taxes, all that fun stuff. Like that you had to do after 5 p.m.
Yeah.
Like that was the hard work that I'm talking about. Like it's that part of the business, like running the business part, that was really, really a learning experience for us.
For sure.
So, but you're right. I mean, that was the big lesson that I took away too from talking to people that had started their own firm. Was it's a lot of work. You might as well do it when you got more time and energy to do it, like in your 30s or in your case, late 20s. So, but that was the other drawback. Like if it didn't work out, we'd still be in the prime of our careers. So
well, that's probably a good point to show some appreciation to Krista and Kashmira. We can pat ourselves on the back about how hard we worked and got all these letters submitted and did all these things, but that came at a cost. So couldn't have done it without them, holding everything else down. That's for sure.
Especially with 3 little kids and 2 little ones for you. I know it was a lot.
All right. So we'll zoom back. We won our job in D2. This has got to be around early 2012.
Yeah, but before that, who was our first hire? Because that's a good story.
That's what I was getting at.
Well, I'm just letting you know. I'm transitioning you there.
Yeah. So, we opened the Bartow office in February of 2012.
Right.
So about 7 months we worked out of our homes. And, we've had the opportunity to work with a bunch of small engineering firms. And I feel like we're unique in this aspect as well in terms of who was our first hire. Everybody else hires a designer or another engineer or project manager or something. Well, we hired... I guess we called her an office manager because when you're that small, you do that person does just about everything.
Yep.
And it was my sister-in-law, Kelly Lau, who's my wife's brother's wife. She had worked at PBS&J, as you know, and as a financial person. And so I knew she knew how to do all this stuff, AFP and budgeting and whatnot. And I don't think we put a lot of thought into what should we do and did a bunch of analysis. I think it just seemed obvious to us that we shouldn't be spending that much time on these things. Right. We should be engineers and project managers and business developers, and we should hire somebody else to take care of these things. And so that's what we did. We hired her. That she was our very first hire. Was Kelly to do all that stuff, run payroll, and help with invoices, everything admin. And I can still remember we were smart enough to keep our receipts. We did nothing with them. And so we handed her probably 2 shoeboxes full of receipts. And thank you very much.
Yep.
And she got to work on that. And I don't know, I think that was really smart. I guess that's congratulating ourselves.
No, yeah.
But looking back, I think that was definitely the right thing to do, because that freed us up to go, do our thing.
I mean, with opening that office in Bartow, I think that was a monumental point of our existence at that point. And we were never there half the time because we'd be out marketing, talking to clients, or in the field doing the work. So having somebody back at the office to kind of answer the phones and, emails, whatever we couldn't do when we were there, that was a big help. But Kelly did a lot. She wore a lot of hats, and definitely appreciated all her help in those early days. That was a lot to get through.
Yep. And once she figured out it was pretty cool, we hired Jason. So Jason, my brother-in-law, that seemed the easiest thing to do. I could talk him into that, this brand new company. And so that was a really good move for us. And that allowed us to really get froggy in District 1, which for us was a really big move. I think we had maybe done a couple more jobs. I can't remember now because that's all pretty. Maybe not. Maybe one more.
I think at that point of our existence, all we were chasing were minor design, 3R projects, and getting on teams as a sub for drainage, as you would expect.
Yeah, so kind of bringing it, kind of that next step. We had won that scenic enhancement contract, which was a pretty big one for us. It might have been our first step out of the BDI program, because that definitely wasn't BDI.
Correct.
So that was really big for us, and gave us the motivation and the confidence to keep kind of pressing. And I'm sure you remember the next big project we decided we were ready for was the Central Polk Parkway. But it was back when it was in District 1, so this goes back over 10 years now. Anybody that's tracking those projects, and you've heard Central Polk Parkway, it's with the Turnpike now, and we, full circle, we're able to do a different segment here recently. But back then, everything was District 1. They'd done the whole PD&E to go from Polk Parkway all the way up to I-4 and around Polk County. And they were advertising, these different segments. And these were big jobs. These were definitely, I think they had them spread out over at least a couple years, maybe 3 years. And we didn't chase the first one. I remember AECOM won that one. That was from Polk Parkway down to 17.
Right.
And so we were able to watch that. And the next segment ended up going to KC. And I don't think we really chased that one either. I think we were on some teams as a sub. But we were looking to say, okay, well, maybe those were in 1 year. And I think the next batch was coming out the next year. And we're like, well, let's just get positioned for it. It'll be good experience for us to chase a big job like this, put the team together and have all the pre-positioning meetings, and we'll just see how it goes. We figured we'll just start putting the letters in, we'll get some feedback, and who knows, maybe we'll even win one of these, like segment 5 or 6 or 7 or something like that. So we did all the things, and Joe Locke, I remember he was the DOT PM there, so that was a good end for us. He'd managed some of our projects, and we got along. And even I think the whole TRC was pretty good for us, we thought. And did all the meetings. Those went pretty well. We asked them, like, point blank, do you feel like you're comfortable with us, managing a job of this size? And they said yes. So we took them at their word, and we went for it thinking, maybe we'll even get shortlisted on this first one. And we'll see how it goes from there. We really didn't have too high hopes. We were confident, but kind of realistic.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, we get shortlisted. And now we've got to try to bring this thing home and see if we actually have what it takes to compete. And we got shortlisted against 2 really, really large firms with PMs that we knew District 1 liked, and we knew it was going to be tough. And you remember how many people we had in the firm when we got shortlisted?
4?
We had 4. There were 4 people in the whole company, and one of them was Kelly, our office manager. So there were 3 engineers, me, you, and Jason. And so Jason was our PM, our roadway lead and PM, and I was on for drainage, and you must have been the principal in charge and QA/QC guy. And then we had a whole team. And man, we put our everything into that. We were a Mac company back then. Everybody had MacBooks. And so we put together a pretty sharp keynote presentation. It wasn't anything like, Ryan Terrell would do with our marketing team now, but we were pretty proud of ourselves back then. And we put a really strong showing in and felt good about our approach, and it worked out and we won. And that created a pretty big splash in the industry, because I think everybody at that time, even though we'd only been around a few years, I think we had earned some respect and built a pretty good reputation for kind of knowing what we were doing. But everybody also knew there was just like 3 of us, and we were really, really small. And I'm sure that was hard to swallow for some, and in ways that makes it a little sweeter to win and sort of shock everyone. But really, it kind of put us on the map in terms of reputation and confidence for us, honestly, that our clients are appreciating our service that we're providing, and they're trusting us,
right?
Which is really what it's all about. And that allowed us to do a lot of other really good things in terms of growing the company. So it wasn't too long after that we were able to start the structures group, start the Tampa office, and then really ramp up hiring. So we weren't 4 people for very long after that.
No, that win definitely put us on the map. It caught a lot of people's attention, and even some folks that we were trying to recruit saw that, and it woke them up that we can chase big stuff. Because some of the folks that we were talking to, they only worked on big stuff. At that point, we were only doing 3R, minor design kind of work, but we knew our aspirations were to chase bigger stuff, and we knew our clients would trust us with that kind of work. So winning a job like that reemphasized our commitment to chasing bigger projects, and then we were able to recruit, new folks to the firm that way.
Yep. And we didn't stop doing BDI because we were still really small at the time, and it let us take a lot of that experience, which we covered earlier in the podcast, from our PBS&J days, where we worked on. Of course, they were the biggest firm in the state, and they won all the biggest projects, and we got to work on a lot of those. So we had all that experience, and so now we got to actually put it to work for PGA.
For sure.
So that was District 1, and we really had things rolling then. Now we've got our Tampa office. Now we're starting to recruit some people over there, and we were already having some success with some 3R jobs. So then we start to ramp up there as well.
Like right around the time we won CPP is when we won our first District 7 prime job, Nebraska Avenue 3R. So it was right around that same time. So it was really exciting for us to have 2 big jobs going through, contracting and all that. And that's when we started to reach out to folks that we knew to see if they wanted to come be a part of this thing, like Tommy Serra, Joe Lasaria, Johnny Fung. Those were the key folks that we were talking to, and they ended up joining. They saw what we were doing. They want to be a part of it. It's amazing. They're still with us today. But after that is when we started chasing some bigger stuff in D7. District 7 started having some operational improvement projects on I-75. And now with the structures group, that was our goal. Let's go win some bigger stuff, get some projects with bridges, keep that group rolling. And there was one at I-75 at 60 that we teamed up well, got a good team together. I was the project manager. Jason was lead roadway. I think you were QC guy. Got shortlisted and nailed that interview and won that one. So that also woke up some people that we were going to also win some big stuff in D7. And having the Tampa office really helped to grow the firm. We were able to recruit more people that we knew. More people saw us and wanted to work with us. Didn't want to come all the way to Bartow, but they can come to Tampa. So we had our office right there near, District 7, set up shop there, and, it really had us going forward a lot at that point.
Yeah. I think all that whole time of the company was a big turning point for us, especially starting the structures groups. That was also kind of a part of that. So we knew we could win the big work and compete. And then in terms of starting a whole new service line, albeit with people we knew really well, but still, we're at this time figuring out, are we really businessmen as well as engineers?
Right.
So we figured the first stuff out, but we're still doing roadway and drainage and plans production, which we'd been doing. We knew that stuff. But can we start a whole new service line?
Yeah.
Now, part of that decision-making process is doing that with people that you can trust. So at least we knew that. And I know you remember we were having those conversations like, well, I'll talk to Joe and see if he'll talk to Johnny. And if they don't want to do it, then maybe we just won't do it.
Yeah.
Because I don't really want to do it with anyone else. So thankfully that worked out, and we were able to talk them into that. Mm-hmm. But that whole turning point of, okay, well, if we can do that, then maybe one day we can start a traffic group and a planning group, like whatever, maybe we can do this. And so, we just really, from that point on, just went crazy, chasing as much work as we can, trying to get into every district we can. And the BDI program was a big part of that, for sure, to get in. And if you don't let us in up front, we're not going anywhere. You're going to have to give us a job eventually, because we're just going to keep coming back.
Yes. Persistence was our
because we knew angle. That once we got in and we did what we do, that they would like it and they want us to run more projects for them, because, we do a good job, or we must. That seems to be what people think, because they keep giving us projects.
Right. I think the clients do appreciate that. You do good work and you honor your commitments, then hopefully you get repeat work. So, but going back to the searchers group, I mean, that was a big turning point of the firm, but we learned a lot just from running a company, how much overhead they would be on the first, hopefully 12 months. And it ended up being that long. Just, they won't work right away, but they don't really see their work until later on in projects. So, that's when we started seeing like, okay, starting new service lines, definitely more planning and more just thought process going into it. So it was definitely a turning point of the firm, but a lot of lessons learned for us there too. Yeah,
I guess part of being good business people is sometimes learning those lessons and having a little bit of pain.
Yep.
Yeah, so we wasn't much pain at all.
Nope.
It all went fine. But a little puckering up there towards the end. I mean, that's the thing too, because they were successful. They really hit the ground running.
Right.
But we knew how long it takes to get these things going sometimes, and so we didn't quite calculate all that perfectly, but it all comes out.
Well, and the other thing with the structures group that really helped us too was getting on design builds projects, because those guys, that's what they wanted to do, and we never really pursued design build as much at that point of our firm. But these guys are like, hey, we're going to go and start teaming up. We're like, go nuts. And that was one thing that we've always talked about. Like, you get the right people to start something for you, just give them the equipment, get out of the way. And that's what we did.
Exactly.
And they ran it and took it off. So it's been good.
Yeah, that was the beauty of those days. There was no go, no-go meeting. It was just go. It was just go.
I think we still have that kind of same moment now.
Yeah, well, that I think we'll probably stop there, because we could talk another 3 days on all the projects we chase, and those are fun conversations. But it's probably a good place to stop, because that really was the turning point. We started to get stuff in place, and then from there we just kept trying to collect all the best people that we possibly could and chase everything we possibly could and try to just keep growing. And that's what we did.
Yes, sir.
All right, so that will wrap up this edition, this inaugural first edition of PGA's Breaking the Ice podcast. I appreciate you being here and going down memory lane with me and
yes, sir,
talking about all those things. That was a lot of fun. We got a lot of topics ahead, so we'll have a new guest next time, and we'll have a new topic, and we'll get into lots of different things over the next several months, and we hope it's interesting and entertaining to all of you listening and watching, and looking forward to doing many more. Yeah, and we'll wrap it up like we do a lot of things.
Didn't do it right last time.
With a very common thing, we like to end our interviews this way. Actually, it's a big marketing thing. Is we go 1, 2, 3, go PGA.
Go PGA. Oh, yeah. I thought you were gonna do it again. What are you gonna do? 1, 2, 3 again?